My name is Nora. If you are currently undergrad or grad students in biomedical engineering, or you want to step into the medical device industry and find what are some potential job options that's suitable for you, this is a video that I hope to be helpful to you. So I got my undergrad degree in biomedical engineering in Hong Kong. Then I came to US and got my master degree in regulatory science in University of Southern California. Right now, I work as a regulatory affairs specialist in a medical device manufacturer. After going into the industry, I found there are a lot of job options that they actually existed, but I didn't know they are actual job options when I was in undergrad. So I created this video and hopefully it can be helpful for someone who are just on this journey of thinking about what they should do for the future or thinking about potential career job options or want to pivot their jobs into other directions. I hope this is helpful to you. Okay, firstly, I want to quickly go over the life cycle of the medical device. We have the process just like any other products. The process are basically the same. Firstly, the engineer team heard back from sales about certain adjustment of the device or a new model of the device. So there are design and prototype, and then the development and manufacturing process, then a bunch of verification and the validation tests to make sure the device are safe and effective, and then go through the regulatory pathway to get a clearance or approval with a health authority like FDA or like FDA, and then goes to the sales and reimbursement, and then in the post market for the medical device, you also need to handle with complaints, adverse events, recall, and maintaining the products that are already on the market. And I like to tell you what are the job options in each of the cycle. Firstly, when we come to the design and prototype, we have the R&D engineers. That's maybe what people firstly think about when they think about biomedical engineer, the engineer that designed the medical device. So that could be an electrical engineer, a software engineer, or a mechanical engineer. They are the design engineers that actually make the change for the design or develop a new software, a new electrical PCB board. And you need to know about those softwares and those like skill sets to make sure you're okay. And the pros of the R&D engineer is that I think that really represents to the innovation that's really fun, and I think they have a relatively higher salary in the medical device industry. But the cons is that I find that when the economic goes down, the manufacturer, they will firstly cut down the cost they spent on R&D. So anytime when you see the news about layoff, the R&D always being the first group of people that will be impacted. But there are really fun and interesting job options. And next, when we go to the manufacturing process, we have the process engineer. They are the engineers to develop the process with the design engineer to make sure that it works in the clean room, or the people can assemble different components to make these new products. They also work closely with the workers that to make the manufacturing, the mechanics or the assembly workers So they may help them to develop some tools, for example, the rulers or rulers to measure the length of a components, or like tools to define whether the components fulfill the standard requirements. And they also help with some statistic analysis process. So in the medical device industry, you need to make sure that the components that manufactured by a machine have quite constant quality, and they normally use a control chart to monitor that. So if you are a process engineer, you need to make sure that the components that the machines manufactured are always fall under that defined standard. If it's out of standard, that is a non-conformance products, and you may need to investigate why this machine start to manufacture the components that not under our criteria and our standard. So that's a job of process engineer. And the pros of a process engineer is that I find there are actually a lot of job opportunities related to process engineer, and they actually have pretty I'll see like a lot of job potentials. If you are familiar with the process improvement and or Six Sigma, they are all related to job of process engineer. For example, if the manufacturer process currently can manufacture 500 products, can it manufacture 1,000 products? Or like, can we cut the cost to manufacture this 500 products? That's all the question towards the manufacturing, the process engineer. And cons is that I think in general they have less entrance requirements comparing to the R&D engineer, and I think the salary is relatively lower than the R&D engineer. But they are still very awesome. They are very hands-on, and they know exactly what happened in the manufacturing facilities. So the next we have the test engineer. The test engineer are the people who follow the standards. For example, I laid out for the hypodermic needle. They are the people who follow the standards. They will draft test protocols based on some international standards or some in-house developed standards to have a protocols how we gonna test this device, how we gonna test the software of this device actually work. And then they need to write test reports to collect those data and have the actual proof that, our device meet the international requirements or international standards. There are a lot of jobs for the test engineer, design validation engineers who draft these protocols and do these tests. So I have seen a lot of this type of job opportunities in Medtronic. Some of them are like contract positions, some of them are full-time positions. I think they are, comparing to the engineers for the R&D, they also have a relatively lower entry requirements. And as new devices coming out and more complicated new devices coming out, I think there are more job opportunities for the validation engineer and test engineer. And then we come to the pre-market regulatory affair. So they are the department that have the conversations and submit the documents to the FDA or the health authorities, the government of other countries who regulate medical devices. So, for example, for the hypodermic needle, in FDA is classified as a class 2 medical device. So if you are the regulatory department of of device companies that have hypodermic needle. Whenever you want to have a new needle, if it's very innovative, then you need to submit a package called a 510K package, which are a series of documents to make sure your device is safe and effective. You need to submit those to the FDA, and if FDA have some conversation as a regulatory people, you need to understand what are the regulatory requirements and have the conversation with your engineer or clinical departments. And also, if your device want to go to a lot of other countries, for example, you may want to go to Europe, Japan, China, and then the regulatory people will help you to prepare the submission to those other countries. So I think regulatory affair, this domain is becoming getting more and more attention and having more and more job opportunities coming out. And I saw a lot of people with PhD degrees, with GED degrees go into this domain because currently the regulatory requirements in different countries are getting more and more stringent. And also because of we got very innovative material, we get combinational products to put a drug and device together, and also we have these AI devices that solely dependent on a software. All this have regulatory challenges, all this create job opportunities in the regulatory affair field. So that's as a cons, I think, in the regulatory affair. Also, it's kind of a very administrative department in the companies. So they are very unlikely to be laid off because the company constantly need to make sure it fulfills the requirements on all the markets it's go to. But the cons part maybe is that regulatory people are mostly work with the documents, so they have few chance to see the actual products, the actual development process or manufacturing process. But I still very enjoy doing it. I think it's a fun part to let you to see different documents and how the company do all the tests, because you need to review all the documents. That's always a fun part for me. So for the next part, we have sales and reimbursement. So the sales representative are actually the people go into the hospital, talk with the doctors, talk with surgeons to promote the products. And I think these days there are more and more engineers consider to join in to be a sales because they pay much better sometimes than an R&D engineer. And I think because a lot of medical devices getting more and more complicated, the hospital also really appreciate a sales representative with the knowledge deep into the device, how it works and how those clinical data means. So I think the pros of doing sales is very obvious, is that you make more money. And I think it's also really meaningful if you can really transfer the benefit of your device to the market. It's very, very important. And the cons part may be that a lot of people who study the engineer also being more introverted. So they may feel very shy to go to be a sales. But I ever talk with someone who being a manager in medical device sales. The thing is that a lot of doctors, they may also be kind of a introverted person actually. So a lot of doctors actually really appreciate someone who have the solid engineer knowledge and clinical knowledge and can explain how the device work clearly. And then next, we will come to the post-market regulatory affair and maintenance engineer. So after device go to the market, as I said, they may receive some complaints or some adverse events. So for example, there are patients said that, hey, after using your needle, I got infection, or that the needle seems not stable, things like that. So you will have actually a lot of companies will have an engineer team to investigate what's going wrong. So if it's needle or some surgical equipment, the hospital will ship from their hospitals or their healthcare centers to the manufacturers, and the engineer will some of engineers will try to mimic how the hospital using that device or what's going wrong within that device to try to find the root cause of that complaint or of that adverse events. And some of that, when the event's going very severe, it may becomes a recall. That means that the manufacturer need to recall a batch of medical device and investigate what's going wrong. And there are also a lot of jobs in maintenance engineer that may happen to a big electrical devices like a CT machine or a MRI machine. There may be a maintenance engineer team go to the facilities of the hospital and to repair these devices, which also need the medical device knowledge. And the next career I like to talk about is quality engineer. I have seen a lot of people with a biomedical engineering degree start from being a quality engineer. So what does quality engineer do? They do a lot of things. They do a lot of things through the whole life cycle of the medical device. They involve in the product and process design. For example, if the test engineer did a new test and write a new report, the quality assurance engineer will revise that report as well and make sure they follow the international standards, make sure the approvers looks right, the dates looks right, the documents are appropriate. And also there are supplier controls engineers. For example, if you are hypodermic needle manufacturers and you have a new raw material suppliers, then your supplier control engineers need to go to check that facilities or that size maybe to make sure it can produce consistent quality products to you. And there are also audit team. If you don't know, all the medical device manufacturers need to follow international standards called ISO 13485 for the quality management system of medical device. So, the company will get a certificate from the third-party certification organizations like UL or BSI, and all the health authority, the agencies of different countries, they actually needed these certificates in order for your products to go to different markets. So the audit team, they on the one hand, they do the internal audit to make sure that different departments they follow this international standards. Mostly, they check your documents or your records to make sure everything looks okay. And on the other hand, they handle the external audit from this third-party organizations or FDA. They will prepare all the documents and they will sit down with this external auditors for all the questions or all the documents they want to check. So pros part, there are a lot of job opportunities coming out. It's very suitable for someone who just started to go into the industry. But on the cons part, I have seen that as a quality department is constantly being the department to spend money, but not to make money. So I feel like sometimes in the companies, they are not being valued enough, or they are not being promoted quickly. So that maybe be a good pathway for someone to go into the industry, I think. But there are a lot of different options for the quality engineer as well. And finally, there are some other options that I didn't talk about, but they actually existed, and I think the knowledge of biomedical engineer are helpful. For example, to be a medical writer, in different medical device manufacturers, they need to produce the clinical evaluation documents. They need to find if their new devices have similar devices before, what are some of the clinical data existed before. And there are also labeling team, who are a team to build the instruction for use, or the user manual, and determine what language or what symbols go on that manuals. Actually, for any big companies, there is always an entire team to doing that work. And there are also some engineers who just do the sterilization and packaging part. So that's all I like to cover for this video about job opportunities that existed in the industry, and I really hope that that's helpful for you. And in the end, I want to say that the physical locations you are really matter with the job you want to go into, and you really need to consider that. If you want to be a R&D engineer, then the US is the best place for you. But if you are in some other countries like Latin America, or Japan, or Korea, or China, there are still some R&D opportunities, but much few than the countries like US or some Western countries. So if you are in Hong Kong or China, maybe job opportunities popping out most for the medical device manufacturers are sales, or warehouse operation, or doing some regulatory work, or if you have manufacturing sites, maybe there are also some work related to the supplier and quality. So really, when you consider your career, you really want to consider where you want to live in the rest of your life. So if you like this type of contents, let me know, and I can make more videos about how to find jobs in these domains if you don't have enough job experience, or how to pivot your job into other career choice. As I said, I did my undergrad in biomedical engineering, then I pivot into regulatory affairs and really like it. And there are also ways you can pivot to be a quality engineer or a process engineer, or if you want to be more competitive, to be a R&D engineer. So hope you like it. I hope I will see you soon.